Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo doo. Evening, gang. Welcome to another episode of the Welch Review.
Yes, we are your hosts, Sam and Stefan.
What's particularly cool about this episode is on YouTube, the first episode that we posted was of Venom, right? The first one that came out, and now, all these episodes later, we're talking about the sequel. So that's pretty cool.
That's fun.
So without further ado, we're talking about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And this movie has a lot of actors reprising their roles from the first one. You have Tom Hardy coming back as Eddie Brock. He was also in The Dark Knight Rises, where he played Bane. He was in Mad Max Fury Road, where he played Max Rockansky, right? George Miller's epic action hero. He was also in the Guy Ritchie crime film Rock and Rolla.
I like that movie.
I do as well. And then Woody Harrelson might not have been a big player in the first Venom, but he was part of the cutscene. So this is expanding on that. And he is playing Cletus Cassidy, right? Also known as Carnage. He also does the voice of Carnage in the movie, which is pretty cool. And Woody Harrelson is known for the TV show Cheers, White Man Can't Jump, Zombieland 1 and 2, and Defendor. You also have Naomi Harris, who plays Shriek in this movie. And what's cool is Naomi Harris is having a bit of a moment, it seems. She's in this, which is becoming probably one of the best superhero films at this point in time, box office-wise. I saw commercials like the #1 movie in America, and it was Venom. But she also is part of Daniel Craig's swan song, the new Bond movie, No Time to Die. She's reprising her role as Moneypenny. So it's cool. She's got 2 things in theaters right now, so I hope she's enjoying herself. Aside from that, you might have seen her in Black and Blue or the Pirates of the Caribbean movies where she played Calypso. What's also cool is Andy Serkis, right? The guy who most notably voiced and did motion capture work as Gollum in King Kong and Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and King Kong, respectively. He worked with her on a movie called Mowgli, which is on Netflix. So it's kind of cool seeing him bringing in other people that he's worked with a lot. And we'll talk a little bit about Andy Serkis in a minute. Then you have Michelle Williams, who reprises her role as Anne. You'll see her in the first Venom, My Week with Marilyn, and The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman. Reed Scott is back as Dr. Dan Lewis, and he was previously seen in HBO's Veep, Black and Blue, which also starred Naomi Harris, and Venom 1. Then you have Stephen Graham as Detective Mulligan. He was in the Guy Ritchie film Snatch, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and Tom Hanks' submarine World War II film Greyhound. And then reprising her role, you have Peggy Lou as Mrs. Chen. She was also in Always Be My Maybe, which is a great rom-com on Netflix. And then that really strange play on karate films, Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
Yep.
Our cousin Gabe was a big fan of that. And this movie was written by the same screenwriter of Venom, Kelly Marcel, but Tom Hardy also contributed to the story, which is pretty cool. And Kelly Marcel, aside from writing Venom 1, also wrote the Disney film Saving Mr. Banks and 50 Shades of Grey. So she can clearly go from one end of the spectrum to the other. And then, as mentioned, this film is directed by Andy Serkis. He had previously directed Mowgli, and played the role of Caesar in the new Planet of the Apes trilogy, Ulysses Claw in the Marvel films, and we already talked about King Kong and Gollum. And most notably, he is the new Alfred in Matt Reeves' Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who's who, where you've seen them before, and hopefully we see some of these faces again in Venom 3.
Yeah, so Venom to Let There Be Carnage. Movie opens up, we got Eddie Brock inside of his house, and basically everything's kind of gone to shit, right? Venom and him are kind of more cohesive at this point, right? Their lives are kind of, Eddie's life is kind of revolving around accommodating for Carnage so that Carnage doesn't eat any humans.
Venom.
Sorry, not Carnage. Venom, so that Venom doesn't eat any humans. And just when they're kind of working into a normal flow of things, actually, sorry, got to double back real quick. His fiance left him, or his girlfriend. It was his girl. It was his fiance.
Yeah, he proposed to her.
Oh dang! At the end of the first one, right?
No.
No.
So Venom 1, they were already engaged, right? But what happened was she was a lawyer for the Life Foundation.
Oh yeah,
and he was
yeah.
investigating
The
the
Life
guy,
Foundation,
and then used her stuff, her notes, like the stuff that she was gonna have to defend, and then ultimately blew up her whole case, got her discredited, and ultimately she
left
him.
All right. So, anyways, yeah. They're not together anymore.
No.
Venom's very upset about that, and two. Eddie, who towards the end of the first movie had kind of been getting his career back in order, has kind of fallen from the good graces of the media. He's no longer like a hard hitting important journalist. He's like a lesser known journalist. But there's a crazy person in jail who's a mass murderer who wants to talk to him, and that is played by Woody Harrelson. And Woody Harrelson is like, hey, I want you to be my friend and talk to me, and I'll tell you all of my stuff. But that's when Eddie notices on the cell wall that that Woody Harrelson's character had like scribed where he buried all of like the bodies of people that are missing, and like pictures on the wall. Venom remembers it. Basically, Eddie Brock figures out everything that Carnage would have told him, or most of what Woody Harrelson, he's not Carnage yet. Cletus Cassidy would have told him before he told him, right? This pisses off Cletus. Cletus asks him to come show up again. He does, and ultimately some of Eddie's blood gets on Cletus because they have a little scuffle through some bars. Cletus, because he's a creep, eats that blood, and then like the next day when he is going to have his lethal injection done, or actually it's just like 20 minutes later, isn't it? It's like it's in the same day.
It's in the same day.
Yeah, he's gonna have his lethal injection done to kill him because Cletus Cassidy is a mass murderer. He transforms into Carnage, right? And he escapes. And then the first thing that he does is he's like, yo, I gotta go find this woman that I used to be in love with when I was in like a correctional facility for kids.
Yeah, St.
Right?
Estes.
St. Estes. And this is Naomi Harris's character.
Yep, Shriek.
Shriek. Shriek has a superpower where she screams super loud. I don't know if you know this about symbiotes in this universe. They have two weaknesses. One of them is fire, and the other is loud noises, right? So, having a girlfriend who yells super loud, kind of bad for Carnage. Cletus is happy about it. Carnage, not so much. So anyways, they go track her down. They break her out of prison. They have this whole fight with the police. And then they're like, yo, you know what I want to do? I want to go and burn down the correctional facility that we grew up in. While this is all happening, Eddie Brock, right, he meets up with his ex-fiancée because she calls him. And he's like, yo, she's been ignoring my calls. I've been trying to reach out to her. Venom's all excited. He's like, oh, yeah, we're going to get her back. I love this lady. So they go to meet up with her. And then she tells them that she's actually engaged to this other dude who's a doctor, who I'm pretty sure was in the first movie, wasn't he? Yeah, but he sucks. And he's kind of a pansy. And naturally, neither of them are excited about that, right? It eventually spirals into a fight in between Venom and Eddie, where they decide to split ways, right? So Venom goes and travels around the city, meeting weirdos and low-key draining people of their life force and killing them.
Sweet life nectar.
Yeah, so he's indirectly murdering people, or kind of directly murdering people for quite a little bit on his own. And Eddie's like, hey, I'm just going to fix my life. I'm going to become a normal human again. I'm going to get rid of these chickens that live inside of my house.
Oh, Sonny and Cher.
Sonny and Cher. I'm going to clean up my house because Venom's destroyed it, right? So he's getting his life together. But then, now we have Carnage on the prowl, on the loose, doing evil things, right? Taunting Eddie, wanting to get married to a crazy lady who screams real loud. We can't have any of that, right?
Of course not.
So
Bad guys don't get happy endings.
basically, the next part of the film revolves around Eddie and Venom getting back together so they can fight Cletus. Also, some people that they care about wind up getting kidnapped. They have to save them. I don't want to tell you anything else, but that's like a super summarized synopsis of the film. I don't know. We're any parts of this film kind of jump out at you? I know you kind of liked it more than I liked it.
So I think the first thing you should know is like, okay, is this a fantastic film? No.
Acting was.
It's not a fantastic movie. Is it a very entertaining and fun movie? Yeah, absolutely, it is. And if that's how you should go into watching this, you're not going there to see like, Al Pacino give a gravitas performance, right? Tom Hardy, I think, is just letting loose, enjoying this character, because I feel like they really flesh out the Venom Eddie dynamic way more in this. And I think in the last movie, they're like, oh, okay, this is nice, right? Like, you dipped your toe, we saw Eddie do some venoming, and then, when you left, at least when I left seeing
I'm doing the venoming.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I want more venoming, like, I want him to be Venom more. And then in this movie, they really doubled down on, like, giving Venom more screen time. Like, I thought that was a really huge plus, and, like, their dynamic, like, I know Anne is kind of a loose end and something they care about, but this movie I thought was way cooler because it would like focus simply on their relationship, right? Like, the Anne Eddie thing didn't pan out, they didn't get back together, but Eddie and Venom did get back together and reconciled. And, I think there's something to be said. Bad guys don't deserve happy endings. And not that Eddie's a bad guy, but he certainly hasn't got a happy ending just yet.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting how they, coax that out in future things, because ultimately Venom does fight Spider-Man, at least in the comics.
Yeah.
So
there are also a bunch of times in the comics where they work together, though. And they're bringing in, like, Doc Ock and a whole bunch of... we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about later. But you have specific scenes, right? So I like that they did a lot more venoming, but specific scenes like that scene after Anne tells Eddie, I'm getting married, and Eddie's clearly heartbroken, and then Venom is talking to him, and he's like, Eddie, I'm sorry, I cannot fix, the heart, but I will help you get through this.
Yeah.
Like he's a friend, like he's emotionally invested in his homie getting better.
I think that's good. I think one of the big issues that I had with the film is that they tried to do, like, too much, like, Venom slapstick throughout the entire thing. Like, I think that there's some good parts where, like, Venom and Eddie are talking to each other, which I think is fun and good, but I think that they did it too much. Like, I feel like they did it enough the first time, like, the right amount.
I see.
I'm going to have to rewatch it, but I think that they did it a good amount there. I think in this one they did it a little too much. There are some parts where it really works. Like, there's a part where Venom says something, and Eddie's like, you don't deserve nice things.
Oh, to the cop in the beginning,
to some random cop who's, like, right in front of him. And he's like, I'm sorry, I have no way of explaining why I said that. You know what I mean? So it's just like, when it puts them in awkward situations, sometimes that's a lot of fun, but I think if you overdo it, then it becomes like...
A gimmick?
Well, a dumb gimmick. Because it's always a gimmick, right? But gimmicks can be fine.
Yeah.
Gimmicks can be good.
Like when he told that security lady, you suck.
Yeah.
And, like, you don't deserve nice... Yeah, like those... Yeah, I could see that.
I think that the other stuff that made me upset is Carnage. I think that Carnage was kind of poorly done. I don't really blame Woody for that, but I feel like his character was, like, too over the top. And I also think that his girlfriend, like, Naomi, sorry, yeah, I know, I said Naomi, and I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Anyways, Naomi, I think her character was a little overblown as well. It's like, listen, lady, you scream real loud. Like, chill out.
Well, when talking about that, I wonder, now, is this the first instance of a mutant, right, in, like,
The Sony...
The Sony Marvel combo thing, since the X-Men is folded and is on it, it's not part of this now?
I guess so.
Like, is that how that works? You know, because it's not like they give a grand introduction to who she is. You know, her actual name is Frances, but they never really go by that.
Yeah, and I don't really know her character at all.
Yeah, so I'm sure she might be in the comics, but I am curious if this is the first introduction of a mutant. But to get to, you know, you're talking about their relationship and, you know, Cletus Cassidy, I feel like they had an opportunity to kind of take this movie and make it like Seven, right? Like, there's a serial killer. Eddie Brock is dealing with, you know, trying to wrestle his own life together, his relationship with Venom. He escapes, he's get back to killing people. Like, they could have made it, I think, a little grittier, you know, and like less like, at moments there's humor that didn't fit. Like,
yeah.
When they're in the church and he's like, Eddie, over here. It's like, there's only 4 people in this church in this shot. There's the priest, there's you, Shriek, and Eddie. He obviously sees you. Like, that whole thing I thought was dumb. You know, I think they could have made it grittier. I liked how Carnage looked. You know, like you could visibly, there's a distinction.
I'm fine with how Carnage looked, yeah.
You know, they did a really good job, because like the last guy they had Venom fight almost looked like the same color.
Riot, yeah.
Yeah, as him. So it was nice seeing this contrast. And I thought like their fight scenes are really good, but I don't think they really fleshed out the Cletus Cassidy and, like you said, Naomi Harris character.
Yeah.
All too good.
It's kind of disappointing because they're like the main villains, and I think that having good villains, you know, makes your story significantly better.
Yeah.
Right. One other issue that I had, I guess it's not necessarily an issue for me. I'm sure it's an issue for some people. They diverged a lot from the comics, like with this series, not necessarily this movie. In the series, in the comics, you know, every single other symbiote that you see, for the most part, comes from Venom, right? They're all just different parts of Venom.
Yeah.
Carnage, specifically, and actually this is a detour, and it kind of debunks, like, the whole movie. Carnage and Cletus are cellularly combound, right? Like, on a cellular level. That's their whole shtick. They can't separate. In this movie, they do a lot of separating, and it's actually kind of impactful on the entire plot. Which I'm not going to say why, but that's kind of a big divergence from, you know, the film. And then also on top of that, this is something that I like that they did, coming away from the comics, is that in the comics, you know, there's not necessarily talk about how, you know, red ones are stronger. Like, there's not classifications for different
symbiote colors?
Different symbiote colors that refer to how powerful they are, right? But in this, they're kind of classifying them and giving them different power stratas. And as somebody who likes power scaling a lot, like, you know, having a defined, like, character hierarchy, I think that's kind of cool. Especially because it in the movie, they use it to continue, like, the whole, like, Venom's actually kind of a pansy, right? Like, Venom is not a powerful symbiote. He's like the bottom of the barrel symbiote. And Carnage, who's red, even though he comes from Venom because he's like one of the red symbiotes, is actually super powerful.
That scene where he's like, oh, shit, that's a red one!
Yeah, we're going to turn around. We are leaving. You guys have a lovely wedding. Goodbye. Yeah, like that, I thought was really fun, and I thought that was really well done. But obviously it doesn't really line up super well with the comics, at least as far as my knowledge goes, and I'm not a professional.
Well, then the other thing is, like, this whole run, you know, where Venom was originally kind of like a bad guy, right? He keeps referring to himself as the Lethal Protector.
Yeah.
Lethal Protector is like the brand of comic where he is like the Punisher-esque, right? He's an anti-hero.
Okay, yeah.
So they're referencing a direct comic line.
Yeah.
But, like, how do you, without giving too much away, you should definitely stay to the end credits.
Yeah.
because that is going to shape, I think, very much Eddie's future in these movies, as well as other characters down the road. And there's one specific thing that involves a TV and a tongue. And I want you to keep that in mind, because I think that's going to build into more things, right?
Yeah.
Because I can't give anything more away because it's spoilers. But so clearly, I think it's fair to say, Sam, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, not a perfect movie
Yeah.
by any means, but certainly a fun one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a must-watch, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, it's not like, how do you say it? If you stack it against other like superhero movies, specifically like Marvel, it's easily better than Thor's, Ant-Man, Quantum. What? No, that's the new one. But the whatever the second Ant-Man one was.
Yeah,
like yeah, it's better than that one. Thor 1 and 2.
I think you
Iron Man 2.
You might be more of a definitely Iron Man 2, but you might be more of a fan of this movie than I was, and I did like the first Venom a lot.
Well, perhaps make up your own mind. Again,
Yeah.
not a perfect one, but not a bad one either. Definitely, and it goes by fast. Could have been a little longer.
No, it's
Could've.
all right.
But anyway, we will see you next time.
Yeah, this has been the Welch Review.